Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Mexi here once again, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos, as you expect. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Donkey Kong 64 for the Nintendo 64. So, last time we did somehow manage able to collect even more golden bananas, and on top of that we did somehow defeat the second boss in the game as Diddy Kong, and on top of that we did somehow almost try to able to actually complete everything in Angry Aztec, but as a result though we actually did that okay enough. So today for this video is the fact that we're about to be able to take on the third world in the game known as Frantic Factory. Filled to the brim with a lot of mechanical stuff, and also a lot of filled to the brim with a lot of toy robotic enemies like these ones right here, and also just any gimmicky stuff. And there's also where, as you probably already know, that we actually stumbled across the final playable character in the game that we do need to rescue. So in some cases though, we actually meet up with Chunky Kong. In this case, the fifth and final member of the DK crew in this entire playable character roster, in terms of Donkey Kong 64 of course. So yeah, that'll be interesting, especially considering about the fact that once we rescue him for reals, then that's when a lot of emphasis on exploration with all that ginormous, collectible marathons will start to begin. So, yeah, in some cases though, we'll point it out whenever we get to that particular stuff like this. So, anyways, ow. I'm guessing it's probably because of that, that drop height familiar, so yeah, I honestly do not know that. Especially considering about the fact that, Sonic has already stumbled across into that, fall damage lots of times on Ape Escape, so yeah, that might be something worthwhile for able to mention about that stuff. So, I honestly have no idea why that certain sound effects is actually somewhat feels a bit slower. At least I'm presuming it's more likely like emulation issues on the Wii U Virtual Console re-release version. But either way though, because again, I was expecting to able to try to play this on the original hardware, but because of the forms of how fact that I'm going to go for 100% completion of this entire playthrough, I'm going to able to actually just to make things a bit easier for you guys, or I don't know. It's been a while since I actually last played this. I think the last time we played this was actually on Wednesday. So relatively speaking though, because today's day is of course the well, suffice to say, welcome to the first ever year for, well, let's just say by the forms of how that specific time, welcome to the Friday the 13th kind of syndrome, which means unlucky day. So, I'm not too pleased about that, especially considering about the fact that, unfortunately though, I seemed able to stumble across the actual pre-order issue with it in terms of the forms of SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake for the PlayStation 4 version most likely. That unfortunately though, my pre-order item is no longer going to be able to be delivered, and as a result, that for some reason it just have some bit of problems recently. So as a result, I might try to able to actually cancel out that particular pre-order game of SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake on the PlayStation 4 from now on, because I think I should probably save that until when it gets closer to summer, especially considering about the fact that obviously SpongeBob reminds me of so much of summer, so, because the sea and everything else to be more specific. But either way though, so I do apologize for that folks, especially because obviously more stuff is about to be coming and it should be on its way. So yeah, that might be something worth a while for mentioning about that. So that is when, as you can tell, that we need to use Lanky Kong for this, and as a result, as soon as we've done that, then we can able to actually rescue the fifth and final Kong. So, because usually relatively speaking, that you can able to actually rescue two Kongs as Donkey Kong, and I believe you can able to rescue Tiny Kong as Diddy Kong, and now you can able to rescue Chunky Kong with Lanky Kong. So yeah, a bit strange kind of thing about it. But anyway, so now we've actually access to every single playable character in the game, and as you can tell, Chunky Kong can able to only collect not only green banana coins, but also green bananas. So yeah, this is gonna be a mad mayhem of any sort when it comes to collectibles in the game now. So, at least for the most part though, whenever we go back onto jungle japes, especially noticeable with Angry Aztec. We can probably expect able to do more stuff in those two worlds now, but we'll save those in a later time, because obviously we need to able to take care of the forms of Frantic Factory first. Oh yeah, something's worth mentioning is the fact that with this world in mind, that this is the only world I somehow for whatever reason got stuck on. Ever since whenever first time I played a game back in new forms have been a very long time ago. Clearly because of one specific thing that makes things a bit tricky at first. But either way though, let's not get ahead of ourselves for this point right now, because we'll go ahead and switch over back to Donkey Kong for a second. Because of one of those barrel blasting segments that should be coming up, so... And it looks like something tells me about the fact that we need to activate something that is... I would say this might actually be the most mandatory thing if you want to beat the game, because I can assure you one of those collectibles will be important, so... Anyways, let's blast through here, and I think I'm actually onto a loop or something like that. Well, it's hard to tell really. Oh, right. So we have to shoot right through the ring, and obviously if you go through here, then basically we can able to activate something like... Is that supposed to be the arcade machine? Well, that's actually pretty cool, especially considering about the fact that, well, it's a Donkey Kong game, of course. So, but we'll point it out whenever we get to it later, because obviously we need to able to get the banana bunch right here, so we can just, surely we'll able to actually just to, like, go for this entire barrel blasting segment as quickly as we possibly can. So, anywho, so as you probably already know, ever since when Sonic has recently mentioned about this earlier, ever since in Ape Escape Let's Play, that obviously kept King 74, he's now finally finished up with Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, and overall though, I think he might as well able to decide to take a break for a while, until he might as well able to showcase the actual DLC content of the game, and during at some point, God knows when, so in some cases though, we'll find out and see what happens in due time, so... Anyway, so let's go ahead and get ourselves the next blueprint right here, so we can able to deliver it to, you know, Snide. So, yeah, that might be something worth a while to able to actually just do, like, well, you know what I'm saying. But I digress. So, as I said before, today's day is, of course, the unlucky day, in this case, Friday the 13th of January today, in this case, in 2023 today. Some interesting stuff has been happening ever since the new forms have been the past few days. To be more specifically, since on Wednesday most likely, that I suppose I forgot to mention about, ever since during the course of in the Angry Aztec world. For instance, about the fact the matter is though, we actually got ourselves the actual, the next update patch for not only for the sake of the forms of Bayonetta 3, but also with the forms of that other game I was sort of able to actually got slightly confused at first, probably because about the fact that, well, I know it's been a very long while since I actually somehow mentioning about the forms of patches and updates. Oh, there we go. So in some cases though, not only do we get the patch updates for Bayonetta 3, but also Persona 5 Royal for the sake of the forms of the Nintendo Switch. So, and there's also the exciting part, in terms of the forms of something related to Kirby fans, as you probably already know, that we actually got some more stuff has been shown during the course of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe for the Switch. Or in some cases though, in Japan, Kirby of the Stars Wii Deluxe. So, seems kind of weird to able to actually have a Wii word alongside with the forms of the Deluxe letter, despite the fact that it did came out on the Switch. So as a result though, it's like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe all over again kind of syndrome. But either way though, that might be something worth mentioning when it comes to likely have some weird names combined or something. So anyway, in terms of Bayonetta 3 patch updates they've obviously did bring out, it's now on version 1.2.0, and for some cases though, they actually contain some adjustments to the combat, alongside with the forms of other changes here and there. So I would have liked able to list some of these things all at once, but unfortunately though, I think I've actually lost track on that specific stuff easily, so... Anyway, so we need to able to become mini monkey form with Tiny Kong into not only just trying to able to fit for that pipe, but also we can able to get ourselves the, what else? a golden banana. So, yeah, that should be pretty cool and awesome at the same time. And by the way, with these segments like these are autopilot, by the way, so you don't necessarily need to able to control yourself while trying to able to actually go for that pipe. So, or any other small segments as Tiny Kong within a monkey or mini monkey form, whatever to be more specific. So, but I digress. And for Persona 5 Royal for the Switch, obviously it also receives the patch update, or the version patch update, but except this time it's more accurately version 1.02. So in some cases though, they obviously fix quite a number of things. Well, not necessarily a large amount of those patches, but as far as I'm aware, they did fix an issue where the screen dims during the gameplay. And also there is a problem with the phones and the network issues, and they somehow fixed a network error that occurs under specific conditions. So yeah, at least I'm glad that was actually being fixed, at least for certain players who ever actually encountered that in the first place. So, but I digress. So let's get to the forms of the main topic of the forms of today's discussion, and that is, of course, some new updates in terms of the forms of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. And let me tell you, this is the reason why I've somehow managed able to pre-order the game in the first place, and also I'm very excited able to replay the game again, except this time on a glorious Nintendo Switch, and on top of that, playing the game on the go, as to be expected. So, for somehow, about the fact the matter is though, is the fact that they did show us the forms of some more gameplay footage of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe for the Switch, and not only that, they also managed to able to show us the forms of, obviously, the returning copy abilities ever since the previous version, in this case the Wii version. Like, you still have the ability to able to have access to the forms of some of those, well, you know what I mean, the familiar abilities, like, Beam, Bomb, Crash, Cutter, and also Hammer, Fire, High Jump, Ice, Leaf, Mike, Needle, Ninja, Paracel, Sleep, Spark, Spear, and also Stone, Sword, Tornado. I'm glad that Tornado makes a return after the actual absence of the forms of Triple Deluxe or Planet Robobot, so that way I can do an instant trick when it comes to likely create a massive tornado when it comes to dealing with bosses. So, especially noticeable in the True Arena's case. So, and also Water, Whip, and Wing. So of course those copy abilities do return. But we do already know about the fact that the Mecha copy ability will make an appearance in the forms of that particular remake, so I'm very looking forward to see how that's going to be represented. But also, not only do we bring the forms of a, not only are we able to actually bring back another copy ability based off from the Switch game, but also a brand new copy ability as well. So, for instance, that in the actual remake of Kirby's Return to Dreamland, we're able to bring two brand new copy abilities that's actually going to be introduced in that remake. Like, we already know about the forms of the Mecha copy ability, but also we able to actually come across into the Sand copy ability, which not only does it able to create tons of sand, but also, well, you can able to actually cast the sand tornado, and on top of that, the sand hand for the sake of likely not only reach unexpected places. In fact, it kind of reminds me of the forms of the Ghost Jade Wisp from the likes of Sonic Colors Ultimate for a little bit, except the fact that, well, it won't be nearly as buggy or glitch fest, or in some cases collision detection issues back in the forms of well, when Sonic Colors Ultimate first released in multiple platforms, despite the fact that the UK version has to wait for the physical release until the 1st of October due to the forms of that, well, you know what I mean. So, but at the very least, I still managed to enjoy the game still, despite its issues. So, likely forms of some technical difficulties here and there, so. Anyway, so now we can able to actually activate that switch, so that way we can able to actually access this next area. So yeah, how it works for Chunky Kong, although I'll get into more details about the forms of, you know, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe in a second, because how it works for Chunky Kong in this game, well, for one noticeable thing, he's, well, he's big, and on top of that, he runs a bit slower, and on top of that, he doesn't jump nearly as high compared to the forms of how it does it on any other Kongs. But the useful thing about the forms of Donkey Kong, on the other hand, is the fact that he can able to lift up heavy objects, and on top of that, he will able to actually come across into certain unique moves for him until whatever we get to later. So, but I digress. So, yeah, that's as far as I can say about Donkey Kong right here. Even though it's kind of a shame that Nintendo never bring him back for some reason after the release of Donkey Kong 64. I do know for a fact that during the forms within the 2000s, that it does manage to able to technically bring back not only Lanky Kong, but also Tiny Kong onto the forms of Donkey Kong Jet Race or Donkey Kong Barrel Blast. In this case though, most people found Barrel Blast to be one of the lowest rating games in terms of Donkey Kong related games, so, but I digress. So let's go ahead and spend 3 banana coins with Chunky Kong to get ourselves Hunky Chunky. So I think something tells me about the fact that, well, we'll point out whatever we're able to come across into that move, so anyway, so that does it for that. So, anywho, and, oh, I can able to actually buy another move? Okay, that's actually pretty swell. So in some cases though, I can able to actually pay 5 banana coins with Chunky Kong. So in some cases, we're able to get ourselves a Primate Punch. So, I think something tells me about the fact that we can able to do a devastating punch. For able to actually not only smash things, but also activate certain switches. So, that'll be pretty useful though, especially that we can able to do just that, so. Anywho, let's get back into the forms of that conversation about the forms of, well, you know what I mean, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, stuff like that. Although, before I get into more details on that though, I was originally trying to able to get ourselves the final instrument in the game in the actual, Candy's, music shop. But I think I need to able to grind for more banana coins as Chunky Kong first before I'm able to actually get the final instrument in the game. And it's also because the reason why I managed to able to buy not 1 but 2 moves at the same time because of the forms of this section. So despite the fact it's a bit dark around here, so yeah, there were quite a few times about the fact that certain rooms are a lot darker than you expected. I couldn't imagine if I was trying to able to play the game on the original hardware, that sometimes though I couldn't really see the surroundings as much because of the forms of the lighting issues. Although mind you, it kinda does the same thing for the likes of the Sega Dreamcast version of Sonic Adventure 2 sometimes. That relatively speaking though, actually I'll get to more now in a second because this is where we get ourselves a multicolored banana coin. And basically in order able to activate that, well, as you probably already know, is every time whenever you hold down the attack button, or in some cases the B button, as any character, while they start to activate that devastating special punch or something like this, basically you can able to actually like, well, in order to able to activate the DK icon mud, that you can able to actually get rid of, well, basically though is the fact that you simply cannot able to activate a supercharged attack, and that way you can able to not only get rid of the dirt, but also you can able to get yourselves a multicolored, well, banana coin, which I'm thinking, as far as I'm aware, despite the fact that I didn't pay attention to the forms of that particular amount you can get, if you manage to able to obtain the rainbow coin for any other Kongs, I believe you do manage to get yourselves about, I would say, 5 banana coins for each Kong, if I recall correctly. Well, mind you, it's been a very long time since I actually known this kind of stuff, so I do apologize if I botched everything else up in terms of informations alike, so anyways, let's get ourselves the first golden banana with Chunky Kong right here. So we're now on to 27 of those golden bananas, basically. So, yeah, we are getting there, folks. Especially because, well, relatively speaking, despite it's a bit slow at first, but every once in a while, though, we can able to actually make these segments a lot faster and quicker, as far as I'm aware. And also just managed able to save up some time before we dive right into the forms of other Donkey Kong Let's Plays in the future. Well, not necessarily just yet though, but either way, that's saying something. So anyway, yeah, I was very surprised able to see another new copy ability that's actually introduced in the remake, which is of course the Sand copy ability. So I'm very excited to see how that's going to be turned out. Until the game is going to be releasing until for about next month now. Well, almost next month anyway. So, either way, but also they managed to bring back the actual familiar copy ability. If you ever played Kirby Star Allies before, yes, Festival copy ability does make a return, and it functions pretty much exactly the same as the forms of how it does it in Star Allies, except the noticeable differences this time is the fact that each and every single character does manage to have the character outlines. So, anyway, so we get ourselves the final instrument right here, and Donkey Kong can able to play a triangle. Oh, this sounds a little bit interesting, especially because, well, I don't know about you, because I haven't found out the actual character bio for Donkey Kong. And then, well, we actually got every single instrument in Donkey Kong 64 now. So that means about the fact that, well, unfortunately though, we probably won't be able to see Candy Kong for a very long time. Especially concerning about the fact that we've basically gotten every single instrument with every character. So, anyways, let's go and pay 5 purple banana coins with Tiny Kong to able to learn the next move. In this case, Ponytail Twirl. In this case, it's basically equivalent to Dixie Kong's Ponytail Twirl ability from not only in Donkey Kong Country 2, but also Donkey Kong Country 3 as well. So, yeah, basically it functions the same thing as the forms of how it does in Dixie Kong's case, except, well, basically you just simply press the A button twice. So that way you can able to actually float in midair, and you can able to actually make your way for longest gaps on certain platforms. And by the way, that move, as we've already learned, is mandatory if you really want to beat the next boss in the game. Because the reason why I'm pointing things out is because, well, you probably already know what to expect. So, anyways, let's go and bring out Lanky Kong to learn the next move. So, I wonder what the next move are we going to be brings us into for Lanky Kong. So in some cases though, we got ourselves the, well, assuming if the text pops up, there we go, Baboon Balloon. Oh, interesting, huh? So I believe if you do manage to find the actual pad that features Lanky Kong's face, then you'll turn into a balloon, and basically you can float in the air for a few seconds notice, or something like that. So, that might be handy though, especially noticeable if you're trying to reach higher places, then that'll be the only thing you might able to come across into. And let's do the same thing for Diddy Kong right here. So of course we need to pay for about 7 banana coins to able to learn the next ability for Diddy Kong. In some cases we have Springy Spring. So I think of like the forms of that familiar ability. If you ever played Banjo-Kazooie before, called Shock Jump, basically it's kind of like that, except rather than just holding down the A button in order to able to activate it when you come across into the forms of that pad, so instead, in this game in particular, you have to press the Z button, so pretty much expect it when it comes to likely if you ever come across into certain pads. So from here, now we need to switch over to Donkey Kong to learn the next ability, which is Gorilla Grab. Even though this seems kind of worthless, but as a result, it might be actually be mandatory if you really want to get the most important collectible in the game before you reach towards the end game. So if you ever come across into a liver, that is when you're essentially going to be using a Gorilla Grab. So that'll be the only usage of that. So it doesn't do that much anything else aside from that, but anyway, let's go ahead and get the banana balloon, so that way we can get 10 additional bananas as Donkey Kong, so like so. So, anywho, and then also another thing is worth noting for is the fact that I'm pretty sure that, much like the forms of, let's say, any other Kirby games, since Kirby and the Rainbow Paintbrush, or the Rainbow Curse, for those of you who lived in America, that, once again, we were able to actually stumble across an amiibo functionality, which I'm not exactly sure what that does just yet, though, but we'll see what happens during at some point until next month, so that might be the only reason for that, so. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame that I can't seem to able to get, SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake on the PlayStation 4 from now on, but I'll promise you guys, I will get around to it at some point, especially noticeable that if everything else will be settled down, once the actual game finally releases during public, then I would able to actually just get the game on the PlayStation 4 during some time. So, and here's the actual next challenge right here, or the next minigame challenge, and basically it's kind of like the forms of Sneaky Snoop from the likes of the Angry Aztec world, except you now need to collect DK coins in order to able to actually complete this minigame challenge. However though, there are quite a few times though about the fact that, as I said before, that we will come across into several identical minigames in the future, whilst in this one on the other hand though, this is the only time you can able to actually experience this minigame challenge, because this only plays once. So as far as everything else throughout though, then you have to be able to do several of those minigame challenges multiple times. And as a result though, it might get a bit repetition and stuff like that, or it might be getting a bit repetitive at points, but there are some easy ones for sure, but there are some of them are a biggest pain in the backside, especially whenever we come across into one of them anyway, for the sake of the forms of Frantic Factory world, that you definitely know why I'm going to be speaking about it. So, alright, so we got 28 golden bananas so far, so nicely done for the most part. But anyway, so yeah, I'm pretty sure about the fact that the amiibo functionality will make an existence for Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. In fact, kind of think about it, they continued that support with the amiibo functionality with certain Kirby games nowadays. Although I'm sure enough, the good thing I did still manage to get myself the glorious Kirby amiibo based off from the 2016 release. Well, despite the fact it's more accurately a reproductioning version, no, it's the forms of the re-release version of that particular amiibo, so that's sure it's something. So, anyways, let's get into this fun part for this particular Frantic Factory world. As soon as we pull the lever as Donkey Kong, and from here, I get the strong sense of feeling we're going to be playing a familiar video game. Back in 1981, yes, we are playing Donkey Kong for the arcade machine. So yeah, it's a pretty cool touch, especially noticeable considering about the fact that, well, we experienced the actual old familiar game in the past. Although, except the fact that you're going to be playing a game with the N64 controller. Like, the good thing about this is, though, you can either take control of Mario or Jumpman, back in the day that is, with either the control stick or the directional pad. I would say the directional pad is actually very useful, especially since we're in a 2D plane. So basically, all you have to do to able to play Donkey Kong on the arcade is by going through 4 levels. And what do I mean by 4 levels? Well, basically, all you have to do is the fact that we need to get all the way up to the top of the stage while trying to rescue Pauline, and from here, we need to go through 25M, 50M, 75M, and finally, 100M. So, yeah, and then kind of think about it, this is actually the first time we're going to be seeing 50M on the forms of regular Donkey Kong game, because technically on the NES version, for some reason, does not include this level for some reason. But either way though, I can totally see why a lot of people seem to prefer playing Donkey Kong on the arcade game, so, but I digress. And by the way, something to keep that in mind, you have to play through the Donkey Kong arcade game twice, by the way. Because, well, if you complete the game once, then you get yourselves a golden banana. However, if you really want to go for the challenge by going through a special collectible, basically though, we do need able to play this game twice, so... And by the way, if you dare die once, before you get to a certain point where, well, for instance, as you can tell, we got an extra life, and to get that, you have to go up to about 10,000 points, and, well, basically, when you start this entire arcade game, on your spare time, basically though, if you ever get touched by the forms of certain enemies, or if you fell down from the highest height, you lose a life and instant game over. So, relatively speaking though, some people might find this a bit of a trouble, well, I don't know about you, but either way though, because it's been a very long while since I actually mentioned about this. But, most people might have a hard time with the forms of playing this particular, arcade version of Donkey Kong for some reason. because I know for a fact that the AI patterns with certain enemy encounters might throw you off. But, at the very least, we did somehow complete Donkey Kong for the arcade for the first attempt, and then since this is at, you know, my fresh new file, so that means I can able to insert my name, because I somehow, obtained a high score. So, in some cases though, yeah, I was gonna able to actually go for a 3 simple letter name. So, there we go, I managed to beat the actual high score. I'm in a top lead at the moment. Well, not necessarily just yet though, because again, we'll play this game for the second time, but as you can tell, we got ourselves the golden banana. But, if we dare return back into the arcade machine, Squawks is gonna tell us that now we need to pay banana coins in order to play the game again. Like, for instance, we must able to pay 2 banana coins in order to actually play the game again. You know, it's kind of like the same thing if you ever try to save your game in Donkey Kong Country 2 on the Super Nintendo version. That basically, though, you got able to pay... What in the world is that? Oh, it's one of those special collectibles you do need to get, and it's mandatory, by the way, if you want to beat the game. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the forms of the Nintendo coin. Even though it's kind of almost like the actual icon of the N64 logo itself. So, anyway, I apologize for that tongue twist in the end, folks, because I was able to try to say something once again, but I just got caught off guard at points when it comes to my tongue itself. But anyway... So yeah, we need to play this entire game again, except the fact that, I think, relatively speaking, if you have a first time playing through Donkey Kong Arcade in this entire Donkey Kong 64 game, it's actually a bit tricky. But, if you ever play this on the second time, basically though, it makes things a bit easier for you, because you have more time than the forms of how it does it on less time, compared to the forms of how it does it on the first attempt. So... But then again though, you have to be very careful of this, because otherwise, if you dare lose a life, then you get kicked out of the game, so... And right off the bat though, we got an extra life, so that's all pretty swell. Yeah, it's pretty cool to able to actually just to experience the arcade version of Donkey Kong. Although, generally speaking, every nowadays, you can now able to experience the game onto your Nintendo Switch thanks to the forms of the Arcade Archive selection, which I was expecting to try to get that, but unfortunately though, I don't think I've got enough credit for it from my Nintendo eShop for my Switch, so, oh well. Alright, final level, again. Except this time, we need to rescue the Nintendo coin. And, yeah, pretty cool. Huh. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Have you guys ever experienced the arcade version of Donkey Kong back in the day? Well, because I'd like to hear your thoughts, because, well, despite the fact I haven't usually played Donkey Kong back in the day, because the first ever video game I've ever played is obviously Super Monkey Ball, alongside with the forms of Piglet's Big Game on the GameCube, but now I've actually got the PlayStation 2 version, so it makes the condition a lot more better than the forms of how it does on my GameCube copy, but that's just me. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get rid of those little square pellets right here, and, well, why do I just walk off the edge? Oh, I'm an idiot. Oh well, we'll keep trying. Especially that's a good thing we've got an extra life, once we've completed the second stage, so... that was definitely a close one, because, well, I'm almost gonna be in a panic mode for a moment, but then... Yeah, it was a bit of a nerve-wracking experience, wasn't it? And of course, if you really want to get rid of those specific enemies, you have to simply just obtain the hammer, and then just, well, get rid of them like so. I was originally going to be able to try to mention about more information in terms of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe at this point today, but I think I'll let both Mighty and Ray were able to mention more about it until when they go back onto Mario Slam Basketball tomorrow, so, especially throughout the majority of this weekend, so... There we go, we've defeated Donkey Kong again, except, well, we're falling in love with a Nintendo coin, which I honestly have no idea why that seems to be the case, and I'm almost at 25,000 points If only if the fact that I could deal with a lot more enemies, that's the only thing I could possibly have achieved. But, oh well. But at the very least, luckily though, well, I'll explain more details about that in the next video, because now we actually received the Nintendo coin. Nice. So I think we should probably end things off at this point right here, so join me next time for more of Let's Play of Donkey Kong 64. It's the fact that we're going to be continuing exploring through Frantic Factory to do some more stuff. So that should be fun. So I'll see you guys next time. Later, fellas.